Well, why don't we move to question and answer? I know I saw one question so far that came up. If you have other questions, certainly type them in at this time. But the first question was, how big do bedrooms have to be? And the square footage of the bedrooms, there has to be 60 square feet of sleeping space per child in a bedroom. So that can kind of help determine how many children can be in a bedroom at one time. So are there any other questions that you want answered? Just type them in. Otherwise, we have just a couple already prepared that people might ask too. And oftentimes people want to know what type of children are placed in our foster homes. And really, we work with all types of kids from 0 to 18. We work with kids with many different types of issues. Some might be medically fragile, some might be delayed, some might be just having delinquency issues or behavioral issues, and so on. And certainly all of our kids have been abused or neglected by parents, which determines the placement being appropriate. And as I mentioned too, we get kids from all counties in Colorado. So how long are the children typically placed in your home? This is the most popular question asked, and it is the one that we cannot answer. It is so hard to predict. Each child coming into the system has a very different type of unique situation, and one child might stay until a parent's able to care for them, another might stay a few weeks until a relative is identified, another child might stay until he or she's adopted, and so it's really hard to say, but usually within a year, for sure the child is going to find permanency one way or another, and so it's definitely less than a year and often 3 to 6 months. How many children can you have in your home? Well, as I mentioned with the bedroom space, the square footage does certainly have a factor and impact on the amount of kids you can take in, but the state does allow up to 4 foster children in your home at one time. And if you do have a lot of children of your own, there is an actual maximum of 8 kids, which would be a combination of bio children you might have, adopted children, and then foster children too. What interaction will I have with bio parents? This, of course, differs too depending on the situation of the case, but typically you're going to be asked to talk with parents maybe in the beginning of the case when we have what we call icebreakers, and other times you're going to be interacting with them as you take children for visitation because the children are always having visits with their families if they're involved. And at times you might be asked to facilitate phone calls with the child and the parents too. The parents really never know where you live unless that's information you give out to them on your own, though. How and when am I paid? Foster parents are paid one time a month on the 25th of the month for the previous month, and your foster care reimbursement is determined by the child's level. For example, the transportation that might be needed for visitation and so on, the level of behavior management that you're providing, the amount of educational intervention, and so on. The foster care payments are considered reimbursements, like I said, and so therefore they're actually non-taxable income.
Okay, Amy, we've got a couple questions that come in here.
It doesn't.
So, what is considered financially stable for fostering?
Oh, sure. Well, financially stable, we would consider the fact that you can meet your monthly obligations on your own with whatever income you have coming in. And if you can sort of determine that that's the case, we don't do a lot more digging or do a credit history or anything like that. We just really want to know that whatever your regular income is can meet your mortgage or your rent and your other household expenses. And then the foster care reimbursement would just be anything above that. We just don't want situations where people are dependent on foster care reimbursement, as it's something we can never
Sure.
guarantee.
Now, Lee has asked another question. Does each office have caseworkers and therapists?
No, each office does not have the same type of services that we provide. As I mentioned when we were looking at the pictures of the offices, the Colorado Springs office is our largest, and that has different services than the other offices. So, for example, the therapists that we have are actually housed in our clinic in the Colorado Springs office, and so Denver kids, for example, would seek treatment at one of the local mental health centers.
Okay, great. Now, Carla has,
I just saw
go
another
ahead.
question. Oh, sure.
Car
I saw Sarah asked, what if a child becomes dangerous in the home to themselves or others? And that's a great question, Sarah. And certainly at times there can be situations that might feel unsafe to a foster parent or the other children. And in those instances, certainly kids can be removed from homes. We certainly don't like to have children removed from homes if not needed, but certainly there are times where we would want to remove a child immediately if they were in danger of hurting themselves or another foster parent or child.
Okay. Carla has asked a question about paying for fingerprinting and background checks. Who pays for those?
Oh, sure. Paying for fingerprints, they are typically depending on whether or not you're a resident of the area of the police department you go into, and typically that is going to be about $15 a person to get that card completed. And then when you submit it to us, we will actually pay to have it submitted to CBI and FBI. So that's your only cost would be that $15. So really beyond the CPR first aid cost that I talked about and the fingerprinting cost, there aren't other costs associated with getting licensed at all.
Okay. Carla's asked the second question is, can we take kids with us on vacation? Good question.
Good question, Carla. We love when foster parents take kids on vacations, especially Disney. No, really, our foster children sadly often don't have a lot of chances to go out of state or go camping even. And so we really encourage you to take kids wherever you go to be a part of a normal life. However, there are times, of course, that depending on the case, it might not work. So it's just a good idea to bring it up to the caseworker as soon as you know that might be something that you're planning, and then they can put all the different steps in place to make sure that approval is there, whether it be asking parents, asking the judge, and so on. But usually it's something that works out.
Another question has come up about paying for the foster child's medical bills or insurance. Or are they provided insurance?
Sure, another great question. They're provided insurance through Medicaid, and that covers any kind of medical issue that they might have, any kind of dental issue, any mental health issue that needs to be taken care of. And so the Medicaid covers that 100%. So foster parents do not have to worry about insurance or paying for any of those kind of costs.
Okay. That looks like that covers all the questions. So anything you want to say to wrap up?